Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another stream of ancient Greece. Before we begin, of course, we must invoke the goddess. Sing muse, wisdom through my lips so that I and my viewers may learn something about the past and hopefully the future. And by future, let's go with present. I think learning anything about the future is something that we will leave to the oracles. So, the ritual sacrifice having been made and tossed upon my poor disrupted cat. Oh, Cinder, I'm so sorry. That was an inadvertent uh, direct hit. We shall begin. So, the muse being satisfied, hopefully, and the cat being dissatisfied. Here we are in Elis. And my thought here is, so we've just spent the past week in Olympia, checking out the Olympics and the temple to Zeus. Where then I want to finish the territory, the region of Elis, which is here in the northwest corner of the Peloponnesus. So Elis is over here. We've got one, two, three. We've got two over here. Six discovery sites left, and then we're going to fast travel to some islands. So today we're going to begin looking at the formation of what would become the uh, Athenian Empire. And look, I'm on stream, and thus my nose is is beginning to itch. This is the most interesting psychological phenomenon I've been a part of in recent memory, where as soon as I get on camera, I gotta scratch my nose. So what we're going to check out first is a oh, that's cool. We haven't seen one of these small carvings at the base of the column before. Um, we're going to check out one of the very few Plutonia, or shrines, temples to Pluto, also known as Hades. Hades, god of the underworld, was rarely honored. His temple in Elis opened just once a year, and only the priest could enter. It is said that this was because people could only go to Hades once. And apparently there's some ritual sacrifice. I actually found very little information about this temple. I was looking it up just before the stream. It seems like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of the very few places to honor this and to make it known. It doesn't look like there's much archaeology going on here. So here is a smaller shrine off to the side. We have the um, looks like these are offerings to the god. I wonder which god this is. It looks like Apollo, maybe, um, because we have all these musical instruments. Potentially Hermes, not sure. But this big. Hey, what are you yelling about? Nice little bench, love that, and what a view! Nice big brazier. Remember, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, this is cool. So we actually have a, a stadion here. So very similar to what we've seen in Olympia, just a little bit cooler, and a vulture. So remember, it's a brazier, not brazier. I embarrassed myself tremendously in Denmark. Oh, and here is an amphitheater. They have these really cool Christmas monuments. Dope. So this looks like it might be Apollo. Did I say Christmas monuments? I meant Christmas markets. Um, so they have these really awesome Christmas markets, which are like so unlike anything that you'd see in America, because they've got these giant big braziers full of coals to warm your hands on, because it's freezing in Denmark in December. And I was like, yeah, in America we'd never have these braziers all over the place, because someone's going to stick their hand in them or knock it over, and then you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands. And my parents had to tell me that brazier is an undergarment, not a place to warm your hands. So don't make the same mistake that I did. This is cool. So we've got the Temple of Hades, we've got his classic bident, and we've got his three-headed dog Cerberus, who helped to guard the underworld. Hades is the god of the dead, of course, or really the god of the underworld. Um, not the god of death. That's Thanatos. And he's also the god of gems and riches. So all the things found underground are his domain. So we will see a lot of riches here, like this giant pile of gold, which honestly I wonder if this was actually how ancient treasuries would be, how much wealth was just left out on full display, besides being like guarded and safe kept behind locked doors. So burial and pollution. Women performing maintenance on the family grave and giving offerings to the dead. So there are going to be different ways that we make sure that the dead are happy and don't like haunt us or do anything silly like that. And also because we want them to be happy in the afterlife. Giving a proper funeral to the dead was considered one of the most important gestures in a person's life. It was believed that the soul left the body upon death, and if not properly buried, the soul wouldn't find peace in the underworld. Burial, therefore, had a spiritual purpose, but also a practical one in minimizing the festering of decaying bodies. Right? You gotta get those bodies out of the way ASAP, or else they start to stink, they start to bloat, and if you leave them long enough, they might explode out of all the nasty gases. Ugh. This pollution of decay and the impiety of leaving the bodies without burial was a key explanation for the widespread practice of allowing defeated enemies to collect their dead after battle. Yeah, so one of these awesome things about the classical Greek world and before is the ritual nature of it. And even if you have political rivalries that end in bloodshed, war, and death, you still have a feeling of a pan-Hellenic sense of cultural affinity, where at the end of a battle, whoever loses or whoever wins will give the loser the opportunity to collect their dead. And this happens in the Iliad. At the end of each day of fighting in the Iliad, the Greeks and Trojans um, have a truce to get to collect their dead, which is interesting. And one of the things, even as a child, that I remarked on, of this is quite bizarre. In the modern era, you fight to the death. You're not going to allow your enemy a truce to return to the battlefield. So Herakles bringing Cerberus to Eurystheus. It looks like we'll find more about that, but here are the three multicolored heads. A lot of snakes, interestingly. I don't know where that is. The 12th and final labor of Herakles was the capture of Cerberus, the three-headed hound protecting the entrance to the underworld. Herakles first visited Eleusis and participated in the Eleusinian mysteries to prepare himself for the descent. The Eleusinian mysteries, which we've talked about before on stream, are very much tied with death and rebirth, and so this would make sense before his journey into the underworld to undergo the Eleusinian mysteries to get some sense of what he's about to undergo. The entrance was believed to be in Cape Tanaron on the far end of Laconia, and we can see if we can find this on the map after this. Hades agreed to give Cerberus to Herakles, but only if he managed to subdue the hound without any weapons. Herakles was successful in this task. When Herakles brought Cerberus to Eurystheus, Eurystheus begged him to return the beast to the underworld, then released Herakles from any future labors. Yeah, so this is Eurystheus. He hides in a clay pot because he's so terrified of this dog. Eurystheus, I can't remember why the labors were initially assigned to Herakles, but Eurystheus was basically giving him homework, and he tried to make this homework impossible to complete. But Herakles, being a demigod, was able to complete it. So let's see. We are then going to travel out of Elis. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 down. We're going to make our way out, and then we're gonna hop on over to Delos. I do apologize today. We're going to do quite a bit of map hopping, to just in order to get to these islands. No one wants to see me swim, and unfortunately this game does not allow me to take boats, though there are boats. And one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games is Black Flag, because it always reminded me kind of like a Grand Theft Auto with ships, and you can board and broadside and do all this fun stuff. But you can't do that in this game, unfortunately. I'd love to man a trireme. We've got a statue of Hermes. Oh man, this is actually a really cool city. I'm liking Elis a lot. In fact, it's off the beaten path. It's not too big. Really a nice place to raise a family, right? I bet the school district's pretty good. Nice and quiet. So let's take a look from up top. It is coastal. We saw the amphitheater and the racetrack over here. It's a close distance to. It's not too far from Olympia. I believe Olympia's in these mountains in this valley over here. Looks like there's a tall uh, temple over there up top, and that might be one of the places that we're going to. So where? Here we go. 360 meters this way. So when last we spoke about the political history of Greece on this stream, it was to celebrate the Battle of Salamis. And so after the Battle of Salamis, oh, and the Battle of Plataea. So last we spoke, the Greeks had successfully beaten back the Persians from mainland Greece. Mardonius had been killed, the Persian army routed and forced to flee. And at that point, the Greeks began to take the fight to the Persians. So um, we've seen both at the Battle of Marathon, when the Athenian hoplites charged and really brought the fight to the landing invasion of the Persians, as well as Thermopylae, marching northwards to meet the Persian invasion. Salamis, right? These are the most epic moments of the Greek defense are when they actually take the offense. And so what's going to happen next? Okay, cool. So we're going to do one more Labor of Herakles, and then I'll pick up. So that's, just remember, we've gotten the Battle of Salamis, where the Persians were roundly defeated. Their navy was wiped out, their morale crushed. The Battle of Plataea, which is where the land army is destroyed, and we will pick up in just a second. But first we have to do the stables of Aegeus. The fifth labor of Herakles consisted of cleaning the stables of Aegeus, king of Elis. This was a rather humiliating task, since the cattle that lived in the stable were immortal. Not only that, but they were more than 1,000 in number and produced an enormous amount of dung. The stables had been filthy for 30 years, which made the task nearly impossible. In this case, Herakles used his brain instead of his brawn. He redirected the rivers Alpheus in the Peloponnese and Peneus in Thessaly to the site. I believe the Alpheus River is what we saw outside of Olympia last night, but I might be wrong. The water went through the stables and thoroughly cleaned them. Unlike the other labors, it appeared that Herakles was paid for the task. He asked for 1/10 of the cattle if he managed to clean the stables in one day. However, he killed Aegeus when the king didn't honor the deal and gave the kingdom to Phyleus, Aegeus' son. That's like the dumbest thing ever. Oh, we've got this demigod who's renowned for his strength and killing hydras and lions and terrifying things. Let's not pay him. I don't know. So this is from the 15th century. This is luckily not written in Greek. O moderni. I don't know what that means. And there doesn't look to be anything telling us why that inscription. But yeah, so he's wrangling the cattle. Okay, so anyway, picking up where I left off. Oh, sweet. So I've got the Cassandra, the Athenian war hero. Let's switch over to Alexius, the Spartan war hero. Wow, he looks badass. Let's check out these Aegean stables, and hopefully it looks like, yeah, so there's water, flooded, they're flooded. There's a boar, interesting. So after the Battle of Plataea, the Persians were thoroughly routed, and at that point the Greeks took the fight to the Persians. Their first major victory was at the Battle of Mycale, where the Athenian and really the Hellenic army, the Hellenic navy, went to the shores of Anatolia. I wish we don't have Anatolia in here, unfortunately. I do apologize. We don't, yeah. So, but this is on the west coast of modern Turkey, and the battle went, I think, something as follows. I do get Mycale and the Battle of Eurymaton confused, but we'll just pretend that this is Mycale. I do believe they're somewhat similar, but Mycale, the Persian fleet was off the coast of an Ionian city-state, and they were so kind of demoralized. Oh, here's another. We're getting a lot of Herakles today. They were so demoralized, they actually beached their ships and went to join an army, a Persian army that was on. Oh my God, this is gross. That was on the land, and the Athenians ended up beaching their own ships, setting fire to the Persian ships, and then the Marines who were brought with them roundly defeated the Persian army and sailors there. So this is a crushing victory and kind of cemented the dominance over the Aegean that the Athenians had captured. Okay, so that's the Battle of Mycale, and let's check out the Erymanthean Boar. This is another labor of Herakles. The fourth labor of Herakles, I guess I am doing this backwards, was considered by very dangerous. Eurystheus asked Herakles to bring him the boar that lived on the mountain of Eurymaton. Centaurs, half horses and half men renowned for being wise, lived on the same mountain. It was the famous centaur Chiron, who later became the tutor of Achilles, who advised Herakles on how to catch the boar. And Chiron was actually the name of one of my students, or the name that one of my students last year chose. Herakles drove the boar into the snow, captured it, and carried it back to Eurystheus, who was so afraid of the animal that he hid himself inside a pythos container. So maybe that's where I get the story of Eurystheus hiding inside of a big jar, but it did look like he was back in the jar with with Cerberus earlier. Here's Herakles bringing back the Eurymathian boar, um, and here he is in the Pythos. And this, I think, is Athena. And this, I don't know who this is. This might just be a friend of Herakles. It doesn't look like it's going to tell us. So after the Battle of Mycale, the Athenian navy, the Athenian-led navy, sorry, I should mention, um, became the dominant force in the Aegean, while the Spartan land force was kind of paralleling them on on land. And so the Spartans were leading a large army through Macedon and Thrace, reconquering a lot of the areas that the Persians had conquered. And at this point, uh, the Spartan king Pausanias, um, who was the victor at Plataea, was starting to engage in some shady things, and it seemed like he was turning into a bit of an Oriental despot himself. There were rumors, and it's hard to know how much of this is actually true. There were rumors that he was, bedecking him in finery and jewelry, and having, people pamper him, and having like Egyptian or Persian bodyguards, things like this, which seems so extraordinary for a Persian or for a Spartan king that it kind of beggars belief. But anyway, he was recalled, and at this point, the Spartan, and then they put him on trial. He fled and potentially was trying to lead a revolt of the Helots against the actual Spartan state and install himself as sole king. Again, it's hard to know exactly how much of this is really happened. But because of all this domestic turmoil, the Spartans decided that they wanted out of the anti-Persian campaign. And so at this point they said, hey, look, this Hellenic League that we've created, where all these Greek states join together to defeat the Persians, you can take over at Athens. We don't need it anymore. We've got the Peloponnesian League, which was their quite ancient at this point alliance system that used Sparta as a center of a number of networks to other Peloponnesian poleis and helped them dominate the entire Peloponnesus for about 200 or 300 years. They said, we don't need the Hellenic League anymore. We're going to take a step back and just go back to domestic politics and the Peloponnesus, right? They are always scared of a Helot uprising, and the further away they sent their army, like into Thrace, to reconquer Persian areas, that was opening them up to a Helot revolt. So that's when Athens took over the leadership of the Pan-Hellenic League. Before it, there had been two main leaders, the Athenians and the Spartans. At this point, Athens becomes the sole leader of the Hellenic League. Now, let's check out this little bit of mythology. I do apologize that we're going all over the place today, back and forth. I hope you don't get whiplash and that you can keep these two ideas in your head. But stay with me. We'll return to the Hellenic League in just a moment, but let's talk about Kronos, who is Zeus's daddy. The site of Olympia is dominated on the northern side of the hill of on the northern side by the hill of Kronos. So we saw this yesterday during our Olympia stream, where Kronos, the hill of Kronos, is overlooks Olympia and kind of creates a site where it's not just so Olympia is dedicated to Zeus, but we get a lot of the deities of the ancient world and kind of pre-Olympian era in this area. So you have Zeus in Olympia, the site of Kronos, and then Gaia, the primordial or chthonic deity of the world, also located in the area of Olympia. This Titan, who was the father of Zeus and the Olympians, was worshipped on the top of the hill. Prophecy told that Kronos would be dethroned by one of his children. Because of this, he devoured the children he had with Rhea as soon as they were born. But when Zeus was born, Rhea fooled Kronos by hiding Zeus in Crete and replacing him with a stone wrapped in clothes, because that's, if a baby looks like a stone and isn't crying, then it's a great facsimile of one. Once he had grown up, Zeus managed to free his brothers and sisters and make them his allies. So he gave. I've never heard this word in any other case, but Zeus gave Kronos an emetic, which means it makes you throw up, and so Kronos starts throwing up all the kids who come out like fully formed, amazing. They went through. Actually, I don't know if they come out like post-pubescent. I think maybe what happened is Zeus is the youngest, but the god his older siblings did not fully gestate it in Kronos's belly, and so when they came out, they were actually younger than Zeus. So which is one of the ways that Zeus ascends to the top of the pantheon, even though he's the youngest. Someone fact check me on this one. I'm not sure. Once he had grown up, he managed to free his brothers. The following war between Olympians and Titans for the supremacy of the universe is called the Titanomachy, which I've mentioned a number of times before in the stream. And in class, this is where the descriptions of gods and titans fighting against each other resemble the volcanic eruptions and earthquakes of pre-modern times, and is one of the ways that maybe the ancients made sense of uh, natural phenomenon, natural phenomena in the world around them without having access to science. Zeus also freed the Cyclopes, who created the thunderbolt for him. Zeus and his allies won the war and imprisoned the Titans in Tartarus. The Titan Atlas received another punishment as he was ordered to hold up the sky. Zeus became king of the gods, and thus began the age of Olympians. And this is Rhea giving Kronos a faceless rock that definitely looks just like a baby. And here is a pretty cool statue of Kronos eating that baby. There's a very terrifying picture or painting, which this seems to have been inspired by the Spanish painter Goya, that you may have seen. It's very famous, but it looks like Kronos kind of inhaling or sucking up the soul of one of his children. All right, so where was I? So the Hellenic League, this is in about 479 BC. The Hellenic League has served its purpose. It's brought the fight to Persia. It's defeated the Persians on their own territory. And then the Athenians they create this new league called the Delian League. And the Delian League's express purpose, the Hellenic League, they didn't really have a constitution or a charter because it was kind of obvious they're being invaded by the biggest empire in the world. And so the Delian League clarified that and said, we are going to take the fight to Persia, we're going to police the Aegean, and we're going to make sure that the Persians can't attack us back. So they asked all contributors to the league to provide either ships or money, and the money would then be used to man ships, to pay the rowers, and to build new ships. And so and this was called the Pharos. And so each state, each polis contributed, and these were mostly going to be maritime or like coastal polis, the islands, anywhere that was fearful of pirates, of the Persian navy, or other miscreants on the high seas of the Aegean. And so this is about 479, 478, and And this begins the process where Athens consolidates power over the uh, the Aegean, and they end up getting about 148 poleis, which is way more than the Peloponnesian League. However, most of these poleis are much smaller than the Peloponnesian League. They're going to be small little island nations. Okay, so we're going to get a look at the forts. Actually, let's take a look. They did a yeah. So here's a fort. This is a Laconian fort, right? So we have the scarlet and the lambda for Laconia or Lacedaemonia. Hilltop forts formed the main line of defense against invading armies. They are built on stone packed around wooden frames, as demonstrated in the fort at the bottom of the page here, um, created by Michael Guimont. And so they've got a lot of French Canadians. Ubisoft is from Montreal, so this guy is obviously French Canadian. It's up to the hero to infiltrate these to bring them down from the inside, allowing the army to advance, as shown in the concept art by Caroline Soucy, far right. Okay, I'm definitely going to need to play some Assassin's Creed Odyssey soon. But these are not simple structures, as Benjamin Hall explains. Forts are some of the most complex challenges design-wise. These locations need to offer something different for the player from both a visual and a gameplay point of view. So scaling the walls, infiltration, all the good things that Assassin's Creed is so good at doing. These are. I was wondering if this is a photo, but no, it's just a very good rendering. And there, I believe, we have finished Elis. Awesome. Okay, which means we're going to Delos. So the Delian League set up a treasury in the on the island of Delos. Delos is a sacred site. It's the birthplace of Apollo and Artemis, the twin gods. Um, and because of its sacredness, it served as a good um, kind of neutral zone for the Delian League. So this was where the treasury was kept. All the money collected by the Delian League was kept here, and it was no one felt like Athens was taking advantage of anyone. And remember that, because that will not always be the case. Dedicated to the island's mythical founder, the Archigedes Aeneas, this sanctuary was where he was honored as a hero. Let's check out Delos. Cool. So we're in the midst of the Cyclades or the Cycladic Islands. We're going to see some very cool um, architecture built to honor the gods Apollo and Artemis. I do hope my TA, who's representing Apollo, makes it here tonight. But if not, that is a-okay. I do know, it is President's Day. We did not have school today, and despite this being a request from my students, I'm not expecting many people to show up tonight. So enjoy your long weekend, everyone. And if you're catching the VOD, I hope this is going to be helpful to you. So the idea behind the idea behind Delos was not only to protect the Aegean, but also to wreak vengeance upon the Persians. Here is, I think, a herm, or just maybe a bust, but typically herms are going to be, and maybe it's different in other places, but you'd have a bust of a god. The herms, I know the Hermai are a bust of Hermes, and these are found in Attica, and then they're going to have waypoints. So they're found at crossroads, and they'll tell you, like, Athens this way, Megara that way, Thebes that way, etc. So this looks to be somewhat similar. Can we name these gods and goddesses? I sure can't. Though I imagine, it should be Apollo and Artemis on this, but these guys look just like generic figures. Farming risk. Okay, so this was a herb. Cool. Farms aim to be self-sufficient. Okay, Okay, we've got herms and we've got farming risk. I don't really know what the relationship is, but who cares? Farms aim to be self-sufficient, a goal that was not always easy. Crop management required various strategies to alleviate the risk of crop failure and ensure the long-term productivity of arable land. Wheat crops failed due to insufficient rainfall every 1 in 4 years, while barley crops failed 1 in 10. To mitigate crop failure, farmers planted small plots to exploit climate variations. In addition to cereals, they also cultivated vines for wine, olives for oil, and planted fruit trees and vegetables. Yeah, so they wanted a diversity. Remember, the agriculture of Greece is going to be relatively diverse and linked up to the market. So people were actually able to get a lot of different goods to them because they were always so close to water. So this is a herm. They were commonly placed as protectors of sanctuaries, crossroads, and public areas. Note that they are not protectors of farms, hence my confusion, but whatever. Um, so we have, yes, we have the herms. Let's see where else we need to go. Here's a small little village, and it looks like we'll go here before making our way to the statue and sanctuary of Apollo. I should probably change over back to Cassandra because I think it'd be it's pretty shady if I'm running around Delos, which is firmly in the hands of the Delian League, in a Spartan in Spartan guise. So here's a sacred lake. It's one of the main features of Delos, and hopefully I can get out of it. If I swim in it, or I guess if I fish in it, luckily there's no fishing, I would be punished. But I am both immortal and incapable of interacting with NPCs, so they're probably not going to flog me. So I think I'm actually going to go back and take a dip. Don't tell anyone. And we're going to make our way. Let's actually check this place out from the sky first. This is a very cool little island town. I have some more triremes. It looks, as you can see, it looks like these are Athenian ships, right? You've got the blue with the owl. And so this area is firmly policed by the Delian League Navy. So during this time, as the Delian League is rising, it's extremely successful. Under the leadership of Athenian generals, the Athenians elected 10 strategoi each year, and the generals, the strategoi and generals, I'm going to use the term interchangeably. So these 10 people were elected, and this is going to be one of the most important and powerful positions in Athens. And the two most important ones at this time are Themistocles and Cimon. Themistocles we've talked about before. He's the guy who's in charge or responsible for the movement of the port of Athens to the Piraeus. He's responsible for getting the Athenians to build a navy in the first place. And he's also responsible, after the war, he goes to Sparta, and Sparta wants Athens to destroy its walls and keep their walls destroyed, because the Persians demolished a lot of their walls, and Sparta says, hey, why don't we have everyone destroy their walls in Greece, and thus no one will be able to kind of like disrupt the concord that Greece has now experienced for the first time, because Greece unified against Persia, and the Spartan thought is that without walls, any polis will be able to be invaded, and thus we can keep tabs on them. Sparta did not, of course, need walls because they relied on their men. Their shields are their walls. And okay, so here's the Delian Banner. I realize I should have finished my thought. So just real quick, the Themistocles went to Sparta. The Spartans really respected him because he was responsible for the major Athenian and Greek victory at Salamis, and he was able to really kind of prevaricate and say, oh, we're working on things. Don't worry about it. We'll definitely not build a wall. There's just people in Athens who they're taking their time. They're gonna come join me in a second. Once they join, we can negotiate. During this entire time, though, the Athenians were building up the walls of Athens so haphazardly and hurriedly that you can still see today the sites where they rebuilt the walls with just reused pieces of stone, like gravestones, discarded columns. They probably broke down houses to take the stones and build up the wall, because they were trying to do it so quickly while Themistocles was prevaricating in Sparta. Okay, let's go back to the Delian Banner. So it's got a kithara, which is, kind of like a stringed instrument. The banner of Delos is inspired by the coins of the island. According to mythology, Delos was the birthplace of Apollo, and along with Delphi, it was a major center of his cult. Nothing to say about Artemis. That's not chill. Um, but yeah, so Apollo and Artemis were born here. I believe their mother was Leto, and they were hidden here to escape Hera's wrath because, as you noticed, Leto is not the wife of Zeus. And so this is where they were born. And Apollo is a multifaceted god, god of music, poetry, arts, oracles, light, knowledge, and more. And thus, the music part is going to show up in all of his sanctuaries. So we saw in Delphi at his shrine there were musical instruments. At the shrine we saw earlier near the temple to Hades, we saw musical instruments. That's why I said it's probably Apollo. Um, Etc. So whenever you see a statue with a guy playing something, it's probably going to be Apollo. He's often represented on coins with musical instruments, such as the kithara on this bronze coin from Delos. And this is from much later, about 200 years later than the time we're talking, but it's all good. The Pythian Games of Delphi also included musical events in honor of Apollo. Cool. And so now we're going to check out this temple to Apollo. Ooh, the lighting right now is very cool. Um, So this is going to be the headquarters of the Delian League. The sanctuary held the League's treasury in the Temple of Apollo until its transfer to Athens. A little bit of foreshadowing right there. It was a prestigious site for pilgrimages, festivals, and games. You got to have a good game, a good set of games if you're gonna have a major cult site. So here we have kind of a porch under which people are hanging out. Let's climb up it. Climb some vines. I am a little disappointed by the lack of Artemis, the grand temple of Apollo. This was the largest of 3 temples dedicated to Apollo. Interesting. Its construction began when the island became the seat of the Delian League between 475 and 450. Okay, so it did not exist before that, but was built partially with League funds, I'm assuming. Beautification efforts. Where's the statue of Apollo? We apparently just discovered it. I wonder if it's on the other side of this. So, oh, is this it? This just looks like a regular naked dude. There's nothing in his hands. We are going to climb him. We're going to climb up his back because I feel like that's going to be slightly more appropriate than climbing up his front. What a donk, though, that he has. Let's check out. Oof, look at Delos here. And so yeah, we're going to enter the temple from the front and hopefully gain a vantage point for this statue of Apollo. Let's light a torch, which was then promptly extinguished. Here we go. Okay, so we have, I do believe I saw a statue to Athena up here. Interesting. We've got this quadriga here. Learned that name during Olympia. I love Athena's my homegirl. Let's be real. Hence the owl. Big fan. Okay, let's go up here. What statues do we have? The light's not great, so I'm trying to get close. And it doesn't look like I can make much heads or tails of this. He's just got a staff. Typically these people, I don't know any god who's famous for having a staff, so we'll call this guy Gandalf. And over here is another person with a staff. In fact, I believe it's the same person. So Gandalf the Grey on the left and Gandalf the White on the right. Very cool. Oh, you better let me through. He looks like a Scythian archer. Let's call him that. So he's wearing the blue of Athens. He's got a bow, and it looks like he's got a skull cap. So so a Scythian archer. There were 400 Scythian archers that acted as a police force in Athens. I think we've talked about this before. It doesn't make a ton of sense why archers would be the best police force. Right? If people get too close, they're going to lose a lot of their efficacy. But oh well. So here is a big chest. That's going to be the League Treasury, and here we have Apollo wrestling with Python, and we saw Python and Python's skeleton when we were near Delphi. Here's a little cool area. This might be another aspect of the treasury. And yeah, this is not the first statue of Apollo that we've seen, but definitely the largest. We've seen the same statue before. This is just resized. Now, can I jump off this? Very cool fluted columns. I imagine it looks like Corinthian columns. I remember Corinthian columns because they're always just like the fanciest, and the Corinthians are of course the wealthiest, most kind of decadent Greek city until Athens and the Athenian heyday. Let's see, is there anywhere else that we want to go on this island? I think that this is most of Delos. So I've talked about Themistocles, who is integral in the creation of the Delian League and Athens' role at the head of it. The next guy is Cimon. Let me just make sure there's no extra points of interest in Delos. Treasuries. Sanctuary of Apollo, Grand Temple, we've seen both these, but let's see the Hestiatorion. We've been to the Sacred Lake. Let's check out this treasury place. And if I don't think it's going to talk about we've seen a number of treasuries before at both Delphi and Olympia. These are where different states are going to give their funds in sacrifice to the gods. Drop, 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 drop. Thank you. And he's back climbing again. Might be. I imagine this is going to be a similar place. So the Polis who are trying to honor the god and get on Apollo's good side, they're going to be given money. Oh, come on. Give me that treasury thing back. Well, we made our way here, and they're not going to tell us anything, but it does look, yes. These 5 sacred buildings were mainly used to store offerings and holy materials. So here is one. Let's look at these other treasuries in the semicircle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's all these right here. And this is going to be those polis that are offering tribute to Apollo. So, Cimon, on the other hand, was the son of Miltiades. Miltiades was the general in charge of the Athenian force at Marathon. He had been sent by Pisistratus to the Chersonese, which is the long peninsula on the opposite side of Anatolia, where the Athenians had set up a fort in the 500s BC to safeguard their grain transports. Histiatorion, the banquets were held inside this building on feast days. They increased the population's feeling of religiosity and strengthened the ties between the public and divine spheres. So this is a Histiatorion, and this is a very cool mural that we have not seen before. It looks to be different portrayals of a hunt. And so Cimon, son of Miltiades, became one of the main democratic leaders. He was pro-Spartan at a time when Themistocles was, I don't want to say anti-Spartan, but skeptical of Sparta. And as I mentioned before, Themistocles lied through his teeth to the Spartans, telling them that they had nothing to fear, that Athens was going along with their plans. Meanwhile, Athens was building a wall so that the Spartans could not coerce and intimidate them. Because without walls, Athens could just be invaded, and had been invaded multiple times in its history by the Spartans. Notably, right before the creation of Athenian democracy, the Athenians had been invaded by the Spartan king Cleomenes. So here we're going to go to Skyros, where Kimon, where Kimon made one of his first campaigns. So Skyros was a den of pirates and piracy, and this it's interesting. They're inhabited by Greeks, or they're Dolopians, and I believe Dolopians are Greek. Um, and so while the Delian League was set up to defend against Persia and attack the Persians and keep the Aegean free of Persia, this is the first instance where we see the Delian League being used to forward the aims of Athens, but also its allies, right? The Delian League did not like pirates. They're maritime uh, polis, and they're not going to deal with pirates well. And so Kimon leads a Delian force here and destroys them. The city of Skyros, which shares the island's name, was famed for its goats and marble quarries. It had a fortified acropolis, a port, and sanctuaries dedicated to Achilles and Athena. So here's Skyros, a den of pirates. But after 477, when Kimon defeated the pirates and basically, I think he sold all of them into slavery, which is, what you do back in the day. Um, he then settled it with clerics. And a clericy we've mentioned before because there was one in Euboea. Here's okay, cool, Temple of Achilles. So this is a little statue of Achilles. Here's a small cult shrine. We have, it looks like a shield and different weapons, arrows, awkward. That's how Achilles died, so I'm not sure that's the most welcome offering, but who knows? Maybe hair the dog that bit you kind of thing. Help him out. Anyway, so clerics are Athenian citizens who retain their citizenship, and this looks to be a trophy. So at the end of a battle, uh, the one side would erect a a trophy with fallen or with arms and armor that were taken from the fallen enemies, and this is what that looks like. And let's just say that this was erected by Kimon after he defeated the pirates. So let's see, is this north to south? Yes. So we're gonna want to go southeast. It looks like. Just trying to make sure that I keep my a lot of different tabs opening up. Um, so he sold the pirates into slavery, established a clericy, and so these clerics are going to be typically members of the Zugatai class or the hoplite class of Athens, and they're going to keep their Athenian citizenship. So this is not a normal colony, but rather a colony that is essentially an extension of Athens itself. And I'm actually going to meditate real quick to change the time of day so that we get a little more light. And by settling these clerics here, this is establishing further Athenian influence throughout the Aegean. And one thing to note during this entire time is how the Athenians had such a larger population than any other Greek state. They were really able to push their weight around in a way that no other Greek polis was, due in large part because they had people they could send all over the place. Okay, so it looks like there are no historical locations this way, but we will make our way to Heroes Fall in Boulders Bay. So Athens is about the hello, new follower. Thank you so much. Athens is the largest city-state in Greece by population, at least in terms of Athenian population. Sparta may have been bigger if you count the Helots, but of course the Helots were not Spartans. They were a slave population. And so Athens is able to, and we'll see, overextend itself pretty significantly because it has so many people. And so this is one of the first instances where we see Athens settling all over the place. Soothing voice. Oh my goodness. That's first time for everything. Love to hear it. But yes, thanks for tuning in. This is mostly made for my ancient Greek history class. I teach a class where we learn the history, but rather than take a single semester for Greek history, which I think a lot of classes do, we take a full year because every other class is a simulation. So it made sense for me to, oh God, don't fall. It made sense for me to bring in some more games because we play a lot of games in class. So I'm glad you're enjoying it, and thank you so much. If you have any comments or feedback, please let me know. This is very much a work in progress. So here we are on Skyros. Great natural harbor. It looks like that. It doesn't look too populated, but that's probably because we extirpated all, or the Athenians extirpated all of the damn pirates. So let's go off, and now finally, ooh, cool. Do we have shipwrecks? Love this. Um, a pirate ship that has you know sailed to the bottom of Davy Jones' locker, or I guess Poseidon's locker at this point. Um, and we're not going to drown here. I'm trying to follow the directions, and the directions are leading me astray. Come on. Can we go up? Maybe not. Maybe we are going to drown here. Well, that would be a sad end to this channel. So we're going to make our way now for our final spot to Naxos. And Atsali, if you're if you're watching, welcome to your home polis. So one of my students, all of my students chose a home polis, and one of my students has chosen Naxos, and here we go. So Naxos joined the Delian League, of course, because it is like all of these Cycladic islands going to, it's actually, Naxos had one of the best reasons, because Naxos had been invaded twice by the Persians. Yeah, shout out to the Delian League. Love it, Hestia. Um, Here we are, Naxos. I could see Naxos being a popular vacation spot today, but back in the day, the Persians invaded it twice because it's a perfect stepping stone to attack ancient to attack the Greek mainland. So um, Naxos joined the Delian League for a very good reason, given that it had fallen to Persian forces multiple times already. And can we get out? That said, by 470, um, it didn't seem super necessary to the Naxians that they continue being a part of the Delian League. The Persians had been thoroughly destroyed. They were not a big threat in the Aegean. The pirates had been extirpated, and let's see. And the Naxians were like, why are we spending all this money? Why are we giving all this money to the Athenians? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. I think we're going to leave the Delian League. And this is the first time. I hope you don't get your home stolen again. It's up to Hestia as the leader of the Delian League. Well, it's up to you. I think that the two of you can probably come to some mutual agreement. So the Naxians were like, this doesn't make a ton of sense to be paying league dues, or to be, actually at this point they weren't even paying league dues. They were providing ships. And I can't remember if I mentioned this. The Delian League, the Pharos that I said, ships were money. I definitely did talk about this. So ships were money. The Naxians, as a major island nation, provided ships. They had a pretty robust navy at this time. Here it looks like these are grapes, and we're probably going to learn a little bit about wine on the island of Naxos, which would be pretty cool. So the Naxians were like, we're good. I think we'll leave the Delian League. And unfortunately, a Temple of Dionysus. Oh my goodness, we're hitting all the tropes. The TA Dionysus would surely be happy about seeing this, though I don't think she tunes into these streams. The Naxians dedicated a temple to Dionysus, the god of fertility. Are you going to give me anything more? Maybe not. Come on, assassin. Let's do this. And the Athenians were kind of like, yo, dog, the Delian League is basically the Hotel California. You can, you can check out anytime you like. You can't leave, though. In fact, you can check in anytime you like, but you're definitely not leaving. And so when the Naxians said, hey, we're out, the Athenians were like, well, we're declaring war on you. They sent their navy over there. They besieged the city. They won. The Naxians were totally not ready for this. They were like, well, I thought this was a voluntary association. And the Athenians were like, joke's on you. Get wrecked. And they destroyed their walls. They took their entire navy and they brought it into the Delian League. And they said, Naxos, you don't get ships anymore. You're going to be providing money to us. And so this is when the Delian League begins to turn into more of a coercive empire. This is not yet the time that we begin calling the Delian League the Athenian Empire, but it marks the beginning of that process. It's a gradual process. So it starts as the Hellenic League, this mutual aid organization to defend against the Persian invasion. It becomes a Delian League, which is more the offensive version of this, where the Peloponnesians are gone. The Delian League is very much just island nations, just coastal polis under Athenian leadership, and then the Delian League turns into the Athenian Empire over the course of 10 to 20 years, and that's going to be the story of the next few weeks in our class. Naxos was the largest island in the Cyclades, or Cyclades as I say, though that's because I make a soft C, and Assassin's Creed's really good about using the hard K because that's probably what the Greeks were using. Its protective deity was Dionysus, god of wine, who's born on the island according to mythology. Moon Mackerel, this puts you in quite the awkward position, right? Your island dedicated to Dionysus, under the leadership of the Delian League led by Hestia. You're currently an ally of Sparta under the aegis of Apollo. Basically, the only TA you don't have dealings with is Hephaestus. Although you Atsali are are a smith. So wow, look at you just playing every god off of each other. The money of Naxos served as a model for the banner and is linked with the god as the coins show a kantharos, or wine cup. So this is the kantharos. Naxos produced wine but was more famous for its marble. It was exported and widely used. For example, it was used in Olympia and on the Acropolis in Athens. Its craftsmen were pioneers in the development of monumental marble sculptures and architecture. My cat is going a little crazy behind me. We'll see if she pops in. But here we have, this is Dionysus, little offering tables, and a lot of grapes around. So Dionysus is probably the patron god of Sonoma County, where we are based, because of wine and other intoxicants, which the Sonoma County residents love to indulge in. Here's a cool lion. Apple, looks like an apple tree, and I came here before, so I did a very brief playthrough before I started streaming this game, and I'm excited to show you guys the marble mines, marble quarries, which are going to be over here. Is there anything in the city of Naxos itself? This is very cool. Atsali, if you want to draw anything from this area, you of course will get Boku credit. This looks to be oh, this is cool. So unlike, normally when we see a temple like this, we're definitely okay. We gotta check this out. Normally when we see a temple in such a state of like half finishedness, it's because it's been destroyed, right? They're ruins. Here though, it looks like they're constructing another temple, which is very cool. So let's see what's going on here. This is a goddess with a libation. Lots of offerings of grapes here. Here's a hoplite. No shield though. Interesting. Now let's see if this is going to give us any information. Doesn't look like it. Here are some cool scaffolds. Here are the, so that's probably the top of a column. And we can see actually, hold up. So you can see how they fit these column drums together. So these columns are of course modular. They're being put together in pieces. And, unlike the Egyptians who just carved the entire frickin' thing out of one piece. which is pretty hardcore. And then, that's what happens when you have like a million extra people. It's just like, oh, let's make it as challenging as possible. Here we have large pieces of marble being rolled, right? These rollers are how you're going to transport the marble. Um, and they're going to be, this is the uh, shore where they are going to be offloaded and then transported around the Greek world. Here we go through a house. I like this. Yeah, Naxos is beautiful. I'm digging all the places that we've been to so far today. Elis, Naxos, um, even Skyros, which didn't have a lot to offer it, was very cool. So here is the Quarry of Naxos. Let's start at the top. So we see, well, this guy really puts his all into the work. It's, like a little too much there. Interesting. Sinking his head right into the side of the cliff. And so here we have, I think we've seen quarries before, both in Laconia and other places. I do believe this is the first marble quarry. We have gravel here, I believe, which is just going to be, it'll be used for different things, but they're chips from the, don't sit down. Hey, what are you doing? Don't get lazy. Oh, maybe indulging a little too much in the Dionysian revelry of Naxos. But so so they're collecting the gravel, which is a cool little detail. Here's a crane, which is moving the large pieces to where I know not. Yeah, so this would be able to move, and then yes, it's just going to be. It looks like a process of moving from one down to the next, and so these cranes are going to take it all the way from the top down to the bottom. It's really incredible, the human ingenuity and effort that went into these ancient projects. It's so labor intensive, and all the energy is going to take all the energy is going to be human or animal energy. I don't think they had wind or water energy at this time, or like windmills. I could be wrong. That's a potential homework assignment. And remember, I'll give plus 25% points for any homework done based on prompts in the stream. Why not? So, did they have wind or water power? And if not, you could build a wind or water mill if you tell me how they could have done it back in the day, and I will give you a bunch of economics points. Field trip? Heck yes. I think, yeah. I mean, I'd love to do a fundraiser on the stream. This stream is nowhere near popular enough, so I feel like it'd almost be cheating donators out of money. But like, I want to do a donate to this stream, and we'll have a field trip to Greece at the end of the year. But who knows? Extraction. In Naxos, ancient quarries were located on the Aegeos Ioannis Hill on the north side of the island, with another one in the central region, Milanes. In general, the quarrymen exploited natural fissures and applied pressure to extract massive blocks. They then drilled holes in the marble, drove wooden shafts into the holes, and poured water over the wood so that it swelled and split off the desired blocks of stone. So one of those cool ways that basic physics and chemistry is capable of, I'm sorry, my cat has somehow figured out how to stretch a rubber band and then pick at it, and so she's like playing a musical note in the background. It's very odd. She's never done this before. Can I don't know if you can see her playing. Yeah, she's just like down there, just making a ruckus, just like Dionysus. She's channeling a little bit of revelry. Truly, yeah, she's a little Apollonian sprite. Um, yeah, but I don't think that we could. I don't know. I'm not sure if we could get a field trip to Greece together in so little time. But talk to me in class. Maybe we can do it. Okay, in Naxos, whiter parts of the stone were preferred during the quarrying process, which had a direct impact on the price of this marble. Around 5,000 cubic meters of the most prestigious Naxian marble was exported annually. That's insane. 5,000 cubic meters is just so much. It's going to be extremely heavy. We saw the process of cranes moving around Then it's going to be put onto a ship, exported. This is quite an undertaking. The workers carried the marble with cranes and rails. They moved it around with pulleys, cranes, levers, rails, and inclined planes. Um, and what they mean by rails, I'm assuming, are the rollers, right? These rollers that we see all the blocks on. So here are the shafts cut in between. They're then going to put, they might even put these same rails in between them and then cover them in water. And that's the same technique used by the Egyptians as well to split rock off from split rock. And here we go. Greek soil contains great geological diversity. Since the beginning of the early Cycladic period, the Greeks used marble in architecture, sculpture, figurines, and more. The Cycladic period, I don't actually know. I think this is during the Dark Ages, so like 9th and 8th centuries BC, but someone please correct me. Anyone want to do a quick Google search and type that in the chat? I'll give you credit tomorrow. The word marble from the Greek term marmaros means resplendent stone. It quickly became a luxury furniture in Greek cities, and it played a big part in the Greek economy. So the Sea of Marmara probably gets its name in the same way, and so the Sea of Marmara is between Byzantium and the Chersonese. So, yeah, so I can't do geography with my hands. I just need to bring a map of Greece over here and hold it up, but whatever. You can look it up. Is there anything else that comes from that word? I don't think so. It quickly became a luxury furniture in Greek cities, and I said that. Some regions stand out for their marble-related wealth, including Naxos, Paros, Thassos, Attica, the Peloponnese, and Euboea. Paros is Parian marble. I believe Parian marble is the best, or that's the one that is famous and comes down to us the most. Marble is made up of different colors, red, pink, and yellow, and each has a different texture, translucent, wavy, streaked, swirly, etc. For example, Peloponnesian marble is red with touches of black. Pentelic marble, found near Athens, was greenish with a grainy pattern. The most prestigious marble of the time came from Paros and was grayish-white. So, marble quarry of Elis on the island of Thasos, and we're gonna see Thasos probably in tomorrow's stream because the Thasians, they also rebelled against the Delian League, and let's be real, didn't go so well for them. And Thasos comes up a number of times. So this last viewpoint in Naxos, this last historical marker, is going to be to the south. Temple of Dionysus, Crane of Paxos, and Zeus's Overwatch. Let's go to the temple. No, let's just make our way down south out of this marble. Moon Mackerel, aka Atsali, do you have any Naxian trivia to share with us? I don't know too much about them, except that they are at the crux of a lot of naval engagements. But I do like seeing this more economic view of them as a center of wine, of grapes, and of the marble industry. And as you saw, they helped to export marble. Let's see, there is one viewpoint here. Let's go to the top of this Dionysian temple and check it out. Beautiful. We got a bunch of Sukkot down there. Probably not actually Jewish. Oh, cool. Cool waterfall. And just because I do apologize to keep looking at these maps, but there's a lot of these these like historical locations that they don't really show up on the Giant Heroes Burial Ground. Oh, the Aluidai. No. So the Aluidai. Oh, dear. This says they are Poseidon's children. Right? So the Aluidi were buried on the island. Strong, bold giants. The Aluidi. Why am I like I've heard of them in Heteron. Oh, I'm so glad that your little bit of Naxian trivia is about the other type of alcohol that they drank. Love it. Ketron was one of their best types of liquor. Best is subjective. Atsali, I'm hoping that you haven't sampled Ketron just yet. Um, Although I guess if it was with your parents, it's all good. And in fact, would be a fun extracurricular activity. I'm not sure if I can recommend that though. So the Aluidi. Oh, God, This is gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna have to write that down because I've heard of the Aluidi here, or in like the recent histories or the contemporaneous histories, like the 470s. But it doesn't seem like I think it's historical rather than mythological, which this is. So this is cool. This is oh whoa, we're going deep. Um, so this is a tumulus, I believe, but this is a type of um, burial structure that's more typical of the Mycenaean period. So the era of mythology, the Bronze Age. Um, the Bronze Age is both a historical period, but also a kind of the setting of all of the mythology of ancient Greece. And so this is going to be the era of Agamemnon, who has a shrine, a tomb very similar to what we just saw. Apollonas. The tallest mountain in Naxos traps the rain, which is the reason for its fertility. Cool. Yeah, I think we actually talked about that. So that's probably not around here, right? Here's some prickly pear cactus. And here is one of the towns in Naxos. But yeah, so most of these. Oh, and here is another marble mine. Very cool. Yeah, so the mountain of in Naxos is going to help create it's going to congeal and condense the sea's condensation, evaporated water, and help to create somewhat. Oh, I don't even know what it's called. It's not a rain shadow. It's the opposite of a rain shadow. Did I go the wrong way? I Max went the wrong way. Oh dear. This is this is so classic. I am so bad at directions. Really, I'm pretty helpless. I think this was one of the problems of not driving around. My roommate Matt, who all of my students know as another teacher, has an incredible sense of direction. Truly, like if he goes somewhere once, he knows how to get there. I'm in total awe. Watch out, guys! I'm coming through. That's all. Please don't arrest me on your island. I'm not trying to be too much of a traffic menace. And let's see. Can we actually see? So this Zeus's Overwatch. That does actually look like um, the tallest area. Got lost driving home today. Were you driving home from a new place, or were you driving home from a pretty? Were you driving home from a place that you've driven from before? Okay, so this is, I think, oh, very cool. I'm glad we caught this. So this is the grape, turning grapes into wine. Here we've got people stomping, and I hope they don't fall over. Otherwise, they're going to recreate that earliest of hilarious YouTube videos from like 2004. That grape stomping video goes wrong. She falls over and she makes the most inhuman noises out of pain. Oh dear, Hestia. Well, you're good at other things. It's okay. But yeah, Google Maps is really kind of destroying everyone's sense of direction because we never need to memorize the directions, which is great in a lot of ways, and then it also is destroying this inbuilt sense of geospatial awareness that us humans have developed over millennia. Indeed, millions of years of evolution have gone into this. Temple of Demeter. Very cool. So this is like Eleusis. And this makes sense because Naxos has such a robust agricultural trade in grapes at the very least, but also it looks like some other things. Here are the apples that we've seen throughout. I'm going to wash my feet a little bit. Sorry, Demeter. Don't take offense. And here are honey offerings. Cinder, you trying to get out of here? Oh, hello. The ancients often made bees and honey into symbols related to the deities. Honey was considered heavenly since it never expired and was a typical offering placed on the altars for the gods. I believe this is one of what the Greeks thought that ambrosia, the drink of the gods, was made of. Um, these offerings were given to rustic deities such as Pan and Priape, who were protectors of beekeepers, but also to Chthonian deities worshipped in mystery cults such as Hermes, Dionysus, and Demeter. Honey and bees were also a symbol of resurrection. Honey was considered a gift, a remnant of the golden age that the gods kindly gave to men. It guaranteed long life and good health. In this way, it was connected to nectar and ambrosia, drinks of the immortal gods. Called it. In childhood, Zeus was nourished with honey and milk. Mead, which is an alcohol made from honey. Goodbye, Cinder. Thanks for making a. God, she'll sit on my lap forever, but not on camera. Just like my nose itching. Mead was seen as a substitute for these divine drinks. Honey's religious symbolism was all the more important since it could be food for newborns. A young Plato was said to be fed with honey, but also for the dead. So my favorite story of all time, which I've probably told most of the people in the audience, a goddess at an altar offering libation, is a story I heard from Reddit, which was in answer to like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? And at an archaeological dig, uh, they they found an Egyptian pot of honey, and because honey never expires, they were like, oh my god, party trick, who wants to have some? And all these people were sampling it. They're like, oh my god, it's so good. And then the next day they call a big meeting, and they're like, okay guys, anyone who ate that honey yesterday might want to leave the room. And it turns out that in a whoa, this is scary. A wow, we are going way off grid. Um, not, what is it, a stillborn fetus had been buried in this jar of honey, and over the past 3,000 years had slowly dissolved into the honey, and thus everyone who had sampled the honey had eaten a little bit of stillborn child, which is like the most awesome answer to what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten. Okay, I don't think there's any point in me going further because there's no loot to be had, sadly. Anyway, sorry for that disgusting little tidbit. I do believe that's where we're going to end our stream. It's been a good hour and 17 minutes, and we have finished up with Naxos. So, join me tomorrow. This is going to be an interesting, and potentially we'll do this in the future, 3 days in a row, but Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Tomorrow, we will continue the history of the Delian League, probably up until the destruction of Thasos. We'll probably take a look at Athens as well, and get a little, we'll go back to Athens, do a tour maybe about daily life, and start catching up with Athenian domestic politics during this time period. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a wonderful dinner if you haven't eaten so far. I'm so glad that you joined me. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow. I hope that you had a wonderful long weekend. Bye, guys.